Why did the Native Americans have long hair? An astonishing possibility lost by Western civilization. I posted a video concerning the ancient Minoans of ancient Crete of Greece that had long hair, and they used to wear feathered headbands as well, very similar to the Native Americans of the United States and Canada. Let's remember the ancient Minoans have been found to have their DNA in the Native Americans along the Great Lakes area. But why the long hair? Knowledge that remains hidden for obvious reasons. Information that has remained secret since the time of the Vietnam War. Western culture has led people to believe that the style of their hair is in the realm of personal preference, that hair length has to do with fashion or comfort. But if we go back to the time of the Vietnam War, we would see a completely different picture emerge, which remained carefully hidden from the public for decades. Let's remember even the Asians, even the people from ancient India, even today, they wrap the men have long hair and they wrap them in turbans. And the ancient Asians had a top knot that the men used to tie on top of their heads, unless they were monks. In that case, they had shaved heads. Now, in the early 1990s, Sally, name change for protection, married a distinguished psychologist working at a Vietnam War veterans hospital suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. Sally recounts, "I vividly remember one afternoon when my husband returned home holding a large business file. It contained hundreds of pages of government study. My husband was shocked by the content. What he read in the study changed his later life. From that day on, my conservative middle-aged husband let his hair and beard grow and never cut it short again. In addition, the medical center where he worked allowed him to do so, and even some other very conservative men in the staff followed this example. I read the study and learned why. It appears then that during the Vietnam War, the Department of Defense secretly sent special envoys to the American Indian camp to search for talented scouts, ruthless young men who were trained to move without agitation. The enemy gets news of them. They were looking for trackers with almost supernatural, unrealistic abilities. Before approaching them, those elite men were closely monitored for their technique and the way they had to survive. When they finally found that what they were looking for, the men of the special forces, with nice words, lured the young Native Americans and persuaded them to enlist in the American Army. And as soon as they were enlisted, something amazing happened. Whatever talent and ability they had before, it mysteriously disappeared, and one recruit after another failed to show what they had shown they knew in their camp. After the significant failures of the recruits, the government conducted costly tests to find out the cause, and what it found was described in the study. When asked about the reasons for their failure, the older recruit insisted that when their long hair was cut off, they could no longer, quote-unquote, feel the enemy. They no longer had access to the sixth sense. Their intuition was not that they could no longer read subtle, invisible signals and no longer had access to subtle extrasensory information. So the Institute had conducted the tests, recruited other Native American Indian trackers this time, allowing them to keep their hair long, and subjected them to various tests. They then sent the men in pairs, having both of them pass the test with the same score. They let one keep his long hair while the other had the military cut. They were then subjected to various tests again. Men with clipped hair consistently failed the same tests they had previously passed. A standard test. The recruit is sleeping in the forest. An armed enemy, quote-unquote, approaches him. This is, of course, in the exercise. The man with long hair wakes up with a strong sense of danger and leaves before the enemy comes too close to him, before even a sound is heard from the approaching enemy. Again, this is during the exercise. In another version of the same test, the same man feels something approaching him and senses that the enemy will attack him with his body. He follows his sixth sense and stays still, pretending to be asleep, suddenly grabs the attacker and does away with him because, he fought him off. Now, the same man who successfully passed the tests then got a military haircut and constantly failed in all the tests he had passed. Thus, the document recommended that all Indian tracker scouts be exempted from military haircuts. Instead, trackers were required to maintain long hair. Comment: the body of mammals evolves over millions of years. The survival skills of humans and animals often seem unrealistic, while science is constantly discovering new amazing abilities. Each part of the body performs a very delicate task for the survival and well-being of the body. Hair is an extension of the nervous system. It can be seen as sensory nerves on the outside, a kind of highly advanced sensor or antenna that transmits huge amount of important information to the brain. Not only the hair, but also the facial scalp provides the brain with an information roadway and also emits electricity to the environment. Magnetic energy of the brain. This is what scientists have seen in Kirlian photos when a person is photographed with long hair and then it's cut. When the hair is short, shots and emissions to and from the environment are greatly impeded, and the result is numbness. Haircuts contribute to the lack of awareness of people about the destruction of the environment in local ecosystems. It also contributes to the lack of sensitivity in any kind of relationship and contributes to sexual frustration. Conclusion: looking for solutions to the misery that exists in the world, perhaps it's time to consider that many of our key assumptions about, in fact, they are wrong, may be a big part of the solution is hidden in the face we look at in our mirror every day. The story of Samson and Delilah in the Old Testament contains many codified truths. When Delilah cut Samson's hair, the once undefeated Samson was defeated. Consider that, except for the Native Americans, all the ancient peoples maintain long hair. It has nothing to do with the non-existence of scissors, because such have been found in the excavations. They did have scissors in antiquity. And this I've translated for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.